Have you ever noticed that when you finally find peace, some people around you suddenly find a problem? When you stop reacting, they call you distant. When you stop explaining, they call you arrogant. When you stop carrying the old energy, they say you've changed. And maybe you have. Because a lower energy cannot always understand a higher frequency. Guilt misunderstands peace. Apathy misunderstands joy. Pride misunderstands neutrality. But lower consciousness isn't the enemy of higher consciousness. It is the same light seen through a darker veil. This is why some people cannot understand your peace, your boundaries, or your point of view. It isn't that you're better than them. It's that consciousness can only recognize what has already awakened within itself. The scale of consciousness isn't a ladder for the ego. It isn't a way to look down on others, a spiritual ranking system, or another way to divide humanity. It isn't permission to become cold, detached, or superior. The moment the ego uses consciousness to feel superior to someone else, it has already fallen back into the frequency it claims to have transcended. Higher consciousness doesn't make you better than them. It's only that you are seeing more than them. Because the higher you rise inwardly, the more clearly you see that every person is moving through reality from the level they can currently perceive. Someone living in fear will not understand trust. Someone living in shame won't understand self-respect. And it's impossible for someone living in control to understand surrender. They may hear the words, they may see the behavior, but they can't fully recognize the frequency behind it. Because consciousness doesn't understand by information alone. It understands by resonance. And resonance requires an inner match. This is why peace often gets misread. When you stop reacting, you can be seen as cold. When you stop explaining, someone may call you arrogant. When you stop chasing, you may be accused of being selfish. And when you stop participating in old patterns, someone may say you've changed. And they're right. You did change. But what they're feeling isn't your wrongdoing. Sometimes they're just feeling the absence of your old compliance. Lower energies often depend on predictable reactions. They need your guilt. They need your defensiveness. They need your emotional participation. So when your consciousness rises, the people around you get disturbed. Not because you attack them, but because you stop feeding their lower energy. A higher frequency naturally exposes what can't rise with it. Not as punishment, but as revelation. When light enters a dark room, it doesn't hate the darkness. It simply reveals what the darkness was hiding. And when awareness enters an unconscious pattern, it does the exact same thing. It reveals the manipulation. It reveals the fear. It reveals the places where love was mixed with control, where loyalty was confused with self-betrayal, where peace was treated like disobedience. This is why lower energies often resist higher frequencies, because higher frequencies threaten the survival of the old identity. Notice as you hear these words, does your chest tighten or does it expand? That sensation is your internal frequency responding to the truth. If you feel a click of recognition, that's the monad calling you into higher consciousness. In the deeper mystical traditions, reality isn't only physical. It's vibrational. It's mental. It's spiritual. It is a layered world of different frequencies. The visible world is only the outer garment of unseen states of consciousness. This is why two people can experience the same moment and live in completely different worlds. One person sees a locked door and feels defeated. Another sees the same locked door and realizes they no longer belong in that room anyway. The event may be the same, but the consciousness interpreting it is different. You don't merely experience reality. You experience reality through the state of consciousness you occupy. The Gnostics understood this through the language of veils, shadows, and false perception. The Archons were not only external powers, they were also patterns of distortion within the human mind. The Archons don't need to lock you in a cell if they can convince you to view the world through a veil of fear. When you rise in consciousness, you aren't escaping a place. You're dissolving a distortion. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, and pride. They all become veils that distort reality. The soul doesn't see what it is. It sees what the veil allows it to see. The Archons don't need to build a physical prison if they can keep you vibrating at a lower frequency. They don't even need to block your path. They simply cloud your vision so you stop walking it. So when consciousness rises, it's not simply becoming more positive. It's becoming less distorted. It's seeing through the veils of illusion. And the more veils you see through, the less you can pretend to be something you are not. This path can be lonely, because once you begin seeing clearly, you can't return to your old way of life. You can't keep laughing at what degrades your soul. You can't keep calling chaos passionate love. You can't keep calling control safety. Something within begins to resist. So listen to that resistance. It isn't your enemy. It's your compass. The soul simply cannot bow to lower frequencies anymore. And if this transmission is speaking to something within, take a breath and press like as a frequency check. A signal that your soul recognizes the truth that you are the monad. Saying I am the monad isn't an ego statement. It's a frequency alignment. It's the soul reclaiming its original blueprint. The true test of higher consciousness isn't whether you can sense energy. It's whether you can remain clear without becoming cruel. Because when you begin to see through people, there's a temptation to judge them. You see their fear before they can admit it. You see their manipulation before they try to take advantage of you. You see their wounds speaking through their personality. You may even see the entire pattern behind their performance. But higher consciousness isn't meant to be an ability that is used to expose everyone. It is meant to be the ability to see clearly without losing compassion. The beauty of higher consciousness isn't the power to see through others. It's the freedom of no longer needing them to see through you. This doesn't mean that you stay available to everything or everyone. Compassion doesn't mean automatic access. Understanding doesn't mean instant agreement. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the same old pattern. A higher frequency can love from a distance. It can bless without participation. It can understand without giving up boundaries. Spiritual maturity means that you don't have to prove that you are awake. It doesn't need to debate with those who are committed to misunderstanding you. It doesn't need to drag another soul into a frequency it hasn't chosen yet. You can't force someone to meet you in higher consciousness. You can only embody it. Your peace becomes the school. Your restraint becomes the class. Your boundary becomes the lesson. Not everyone will understand it, but those who are ready will feel it. Because a higher frequency doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. It reveals itself through presence. The lower energies cannot understand higher frequencies because they are not speaking from the same inner world. Fear cannot understand peace until fear begins to soften. Shame cannot understand worth until shame begins to dissolve. Control cannot understand surrender until control stops calling itself safe. And the ego cannot understand the monad, because the monad is what remains when the ego dissolves. This is why your path must become sacred. You can't keep measuring your awakening by who else understands it. Some people will only understand the version of you that they could control. Some will only respect the version of you that abandoned itself. Some will only call you loving when your energy is still available for their manipulation. When consciousness rises, availability changes. You're loving, but you're no longer endlessly accessible. You're compassionate, but you're no longer absorbent. You're still human, but you are no longer allowing people living in lower consciousness to pull you down into their frequency. You now inspire them to meet you at yours. This is the quiet freedom of the soul. You stop trying to translate your light into a language that only distortion can understand. You stop begging lower energies to approve the frequency that lifts you up. You simply become still. You return to source. You remember the monad. You stand in the awareness beneath all noise. And from that place, you don't hate the lower world. You just don't belong to it anymore. If this transmission spoke to your soul, let me know in the comments below. What lower energy are you no longer willing to descend into? I read every comment. If you feel called to support the continued growth of this channel, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/MagnumOpus333. You can also explore some original merchandise at my Teespring store online. The link is in the description below. Or perhaps consider becoming a channel member or sending a super thanks. Every bit of support helps me keep these transmissions coming. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.